Now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. The number of coronavirus cases in Nigeria has reached 51, with 5 more persons infected. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, announced this via its Twitter handle on Wednesday. It said one of those infected is in Rivers State, while Lagos and Abuja recorded 2 new cases each. The center said 3 of the new cases are returning travelers, while 2 are close contacts of an infected person. Coronavirus is now in 8 states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. While Lagos has the highest number with 32, FCT follows with 10 and Ogun 3. Ekiti, Oyo, Edo, Bauchi, Osun and Rivers have 1 case each. 2 persons had earlier recovered from the disease, which has killed 1 person in Nigeria. As of Wednesday, there were 2,475 cases of coronavirus across 46 African countries, with 64 deaths recorded. Globally, the cases have reached 467,500, with at least 21,170 deaths. In the meantime, the Nigerian Air Force yesterday airlifted the medical materials donated by the Jack Ma Foundation China for tackling the coronavirus disease in Nigeria from the Murtala Mohammed International Airport to Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, in fulfillment of the Air Force's role of providing military aid to civil authority. The donated medical materials, which consist of 107 boxes of medical supplies and equipment comprising surgical masks, medical disposable protective clothing, face shields, and detection kits, weighing about 3,000 pounds, were lifted in a single mission using NAF C-130 Hercules aircraft and handed over to a delegation from the Federal Ministry of Health, led by the PermSec, Alhaji Abdul Aziz Mashi. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, is to conduct tests on ministers to determine their status following their contacts with some of the confirmed cases of COVID-19. No fewer than 5 governors have also gone into self-isolation as a precautionary measure to prevent the spread of the virus following their close proximity to some infected persons, especially their colleague in Bauchi State, Senator Bala Mohammed, and Chief of Staff to the President, Malam Abba Kyari, both of whom tested positive to the virus. The spread of COVID-19 to Aso Rock, the seat of power, has triggered anxiety among top government officials and prompted the presidency to scale up steps to curb the disease. I'll just catch my breath. You go first. That was quite a long read.
Well, first, let us, commend Jack Ma of the Alibaba Foundation for the efforts that he has made, for the leadership that he has shown, not just by providing kits for African countries, but also across the world. And also, we commend the President of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, who has been in charge of coordinating the distribution of the test kits and other materials sent by Jack Ma to Africa to support, the war against the coronavirus. And I think that the example that has been set, not just by Jack Ma, but also, sportsmen, athletes, and others all over the world in either donating money or donating test kits is commendable. Here in Nigeria, we have also seen some improvement in the last 48 hours. First, it was Alhaji Aliko Dangote of the Dangote Group who had pledged 250 million. As at this morning, we have Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, former Vice President of Nigeria, also pledging 50 million through his business group. We've seen some banks, like EcoBank, for example, getting involved in the sensitization process. We have seen ANAP Foundation, led by Atedo Peterside, setting up a COVID-19 think tank, also to support government's efforts at mobilization and sensitization. We have also seen Mrs. Folorunsho Alakija, one of the richest persons in Africa, also pledging to donate kits. And we've seen Aliko Dangote also going a step further to say that, the private sector should be mobilized. We would like to see more players within the private sector locally supporting government efforts, because it is clear that this is not what government alone can do in order for us to be able to win the war. Now, as for the kits that arrived yesterday, what I find shocking here is the fact that the kits were taken from Lagos to Abuja. 107 boxes of kits and other materials donated by Jack Ma. One would have thought that ordinarily, Lagos, having the largest number of cases, should have been the main center where they can take stock and where the distribution can take place. They're taking 107 boxes to Abuja just to go and count them, because I don't understand. And then they will bring most of those boxes back again to Lagos. I hope that we do not go from coronavirus to what you can call leadership virus, because there is need for much clearer thinking, much more rigorous thinking to save time. And I think that the federal government needs to coordinate a bit more with the Lagos State, which has 32 out of the 51 total number of cases that we have. Yesterday, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning announced a package, to assist businesses and to assist, households. And the CBN has also announced a package, first of 50 billion, and second of 100 billion, specifically for pharmaceutical industries and SMEs. Now, out of that, one paper reported this morning that 10 billion will go to Lagos State as part of support. And there's been some talk about a grant that came from the Japanese government. Now, I hope all of this will be properly managed. And if 10 billion is to come to Lagos State, I hope they get it quickly, because the Lagos State government should not reach a situation with its 20 million population where it becomes overwhelmed. I mean, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos, has shut down markets, shut down shops, has advised banks to also take a second look at their operations. And a second isolation center is being set up at the Onikon Stadium in Lagos. And I also saw yesterday that Lagos has started the sanitization of streets. They started at around Stadium bus stop in Surulere yesterday. Now, the Lagos State should go a step further and use the opportunity of the closure of the markets to go and disinfect those markets, to sanitize those markets. And more streets, should also be sanitized. But what I would like to see is greater coordination. And then government also needs to pay more attention to communication. I don't see enough coordination, enough strategy. There must be a situation room that is devoted strictly to communication. This is not something that can be handled only by the Center for Disease Control or the Ministry of Information. And I ask the question, where is the National Orientation Agency of Nigeria?
I've been asking that
since last year. Is the Director General a ghost?
I've been asking that since last year with the general elections, where there was radio silence from the NOA. But just quickly before we go on a break, I actually think you've been really charitable when you suggest that this equipment from Jack Ma was flown to Abuja and then will be flown back to Lagos. I suspect that some people really have it in their minds that they're going to hoard valuable test kits. And testing, we all know, is crucial. We must have mass testing. In the kind of folly and the hubris that caused the condition that we're currently in is what is being exhibited over and with this taking the donation to Abuja. It's ridiculous. Are they going to tie like a red ribbon around it and cut it and commission it, or what? What is the point of that? Well, Lagos right now is the epicenter. It is as absurd as Jack Ma sending a donation to JFK Airport and then it's flown to DC and then to be commissioned. It's ridiculous. Total nonsense.
Well, I hope they don't steal the kits.
This is my worry.
Them later.
Or that they will hoard them. We'll have to take a short break. We'll be right back with more news headlines. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still on the news headlines. Before I go to the next story, I must reiterate, every single one of those test kits, every single one of those face masks, the protective equipment, it must all be about how we have to account for sort of the economic stimulus package. This medical equipment must be accounted for, because I do suspect that some plans are afoot to hoard these things. We all know we have a problem with our political leadership. The same thinking that got us into this position is what they are continuing to exhibit. They really do believe that their lives and the lives of their family members are more important than other people. Otherwise, why on earth would you have that equipment flown to Abuja when Lagos right now is the epicenter? Well, I think it's sinister.
As I said, we should not replace coronavirus with leadership virus.
Exactly.
Because leadership virus is worse than coronavirus. Because when you have deficit of leadership, then there is a problem. Jack Ma has tried to help, and then we're not managing the process very well. When at a time, even in the United Kingdom, they are rushing to get more kits, and they are even talking about getting people to test at home. They are hoping that in the next few few days, Amazon and Boots will be able to supply, home-based test kits where you can test yourself and know your status within a matter of minutes. Here in Nigeria, we get test kits free, and then we are transporting them up and down. It's
completely unacceptable.
Nobody should organize a commissioning ceremony around test kits.
And cut a ribbon. Anyway, now to the United States, where the Senate has passed an unparalleled $2.2 trillion economic rescue package, steering aid to businesses, workers, and healthcare systems engulfed by the coronavirus pandemic. The unanimous vote came despite misgivings on both sides about whether it goes too far or not far enough, and capped days of difficult negotiations as Washington confronted a national challenge unlike it has ever faced. The 880-page measure is the largest economic relief bill in U.S. history. Well, you were optimistic that this would pass, and it finally did. And it's really good to see that this partisan bickering has been put aside. And now over to the House of Reps, which I'm sure will pass it, and then President Trump will give his assent.
Yeah, President Trump has in fact said that he will sign it immediately. And it is to be noted that, Congress in the United States decided to delay, its break to be able to deal with this because it's a matter of national emergency. What the United States and the rest of the world is facing is unprecedented. And it was interesting that after the initial disagreement over whether this is for the rich or it is for the poor, at the end of the day, the Americans have been able to agree. And Senate voted 96-0. That means it was unanimous. There was no disagreement. And there's concurrence between Congress and the White House on this particular matter. And I think that there are lessons that we can learn from this. If you look at the breakdown of the economic stimulus package, I mean, it will put money in the hands of about 150 million households. People are going to get checks directly from government. Well, maybe the U.S. is going to do quantitative easing, print money, but at least the people will see that government, feels for them. Big industries are going to get money, and the amount is stated, almost about 500 billion. Hospitals will get about 75 billion. And I think, that's one good example of showing leadership. Here in Nigeria, there's been some talk, about emergency economic stimulus package that the House of Reps was considering. Now, it went through third reading, they passed it, but our National Assembly did not bother to wait to fast-track that particular stimulus package before going going on break indefinitely. So how are we going to process that package through the Nigerian Parliament? The Senate is on vacation now. The House of Reps has also adjourned until further notice. So we talk about certain issues here, but we don't think through in terms of how we can ensure.
Virus. I'm going to use that term.
Yes,
now.
leadership virus.
The leadership virus. Anyway, joining us now for business news is a RISE business analyst, Rotus Odiri. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Tunu. Good morning, Dr. Abasi. Yes. So following up on what Dr. Abasi just said, the House of Reps bill with regards to cushioning the impact of the coronavirus, the organized private sector wrote a letter to President Buhari stating that other measures need to be taken in order to cushion the private sector with regards to the economic impact of the coronavirus. The letter was signed by the Director General of NECA, the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association. There he is right there, Dr. Timothy Olawale. And what they stated was a 3-month scheme in which employees who would have been laid off would be paid 60% of their salaries from the federal government, the other 40% from their employers. It's part of what they've suggested for the federal government. Now, the House of Reps, their bill looks at suspending the import duties on medical equipment, also 50% rebates for employers on payee taxes for the employees that they intended to let go. So they're saying that you will get the rebates if you keep all your employees, right? And then there was also another measure that talks about a moratorium on mortgages for Nigerians who are enrolled in the National Housing Fund. KPMG actually had a report where they looked at those measures from the House of Reps, the CBN, and even the FIRS as well. Specifically, though, for the House of Reps, I do want to talk about the 50% rebates on payee. Job operating costs for employers are very high in Nigeria. And if you think about a free market society where you just have to let things happen as they should, it's difficult to tell employers that you should retain those some of the full staff that you have, despite your operating costs, and get a rebate in payee taxes. Because if you net it out, if you net the benefit of getting 50% of payee rebate from employees which you have let go, versus the operating costs of keeping them on your payroll, it doesn't net out. The liabilities are still higher. So what the House of Reps is proposing is commendable. I mean, even the suspending import duties on medical equipment, that one is understandable.
Yeah,
Why?
that's a no-brainer.
Import-dependent nation, so on and so forth. That's fine. But that particular issue, KPMG did raise a particular issue with that bill because, you know, it's a cost issue. Also, the moratorium on loans for folks that are enrolled in the National Housing Fund, that's also fine. But not every Nigerian in the country that has a mortgage is enrolled in the National Housing Fund. So what happens to other Nigerians that are taking loans at 20–25% from banks who are not in the National Housing Fund? Where is the moratorium for them? So the macro view of what's being done here from the CBN and their intervention funds and the cushions they have there to the House of Reps bill, which still has to be passed by the Senate and signed by President Buhari. The macro view is this. Your measures are commendable, they are helpful, but they are too narrow. Even the United States $2 trillion bill that Dr. Abati just talked about $350 billion of that is supposed to go to small businesses in America. Small businesses in America account for $10 trillion annually. The United States is a $23–24 trillion economy, so almost half is generated by small businesses. And if you think about a lockdown in that sector for small businesses in America, where they are shut down for 2 months, estimates that it's about an $800 billion hole. So even the $350 billion that America wants to put forward for small businesses may not be enough. Even the $2 trillion stimulus may not be enough. The coronavirus is such an unprecedented economic juggernaut of impact that all these stimulus measures from America to the United Kingdom to Nigeria may not be enough.
Well, yes, what the House of Representatives has proposed is a good idea. It's commendable. It shows concern.
Yes.
But I raised the issue earlier on. The House of Reps passed the bill and proceeded on Corona holiday, you know, until further notice. The Senate is also on Corona holiday until further notice. So we can talk about coronanomics.
Yes.
Because this is coronanomics now. It's not just economics.
Yes.
And all of us are experts in it because we are all concerned.
Correct.
So at what point will this bill be passed? Let's even assume that the National Assembly remains in recess for the next 3 weeks. What happens?
They should work from
By
home.
then, the numbers in Nigeria will have increased from 51 to whatever. Okay? That's one. The second point. The bill, as proposed, it was led by Jamiu Amila personally and 9 others. Now, it's not detailed enough. In the U.S. economic stimulus package, you will see details. $350 billion, $75 billion, even $50 billion for airlines.
Yes.
Now, I don't get that details in what is being proposed in Nigeria. And maybe if the Senate can quickly come back from recess, that will be one of the things they can look at. Third point. How about the self-employed in Nigeria? I mean, the CBN, under its own package, the guidelines that it has offered, says households can apply for targeted credit facility of about 3 million.
Yes.
I hope that will happen. But in the UK now, you know, there's a big argument about what do you do for the self-employed? In an economy where the majority of the people are in the informal sector. Now, nobody is talking about those people. And then also there is an emerging conversation in Nigeria. Ordinary people are saying, are they going to give us money? If you say in Rivers State you are locking down, Lagos State you are locking down, Kwara State, Okada cannot move about again because the Kwara governor has also locked down the state. Where is the support for the people? Even in Canada, they are talking about direct payments to people who have to stay at home.
This is the missing link, and that has to be done. At the end of the day, it's so important. You need direct palliatives to people. Like you said, all these measures, while commendable, have their clear limitations. But with regards to the dereliction of duty by our legislature, I completely disapprove of them going on recess at this point. But we all saw that video, didn't we, of a senator sitting there with his mask. He wanted to sneeze. He took off his mask, sneezed, released droplets, and then put it back on. So the most fundamental human instinct is survival. It is self-preservation. If they go on recess, they're trying to save their own lives. I mean, what kind of complete bonkers behavior is that? Yeah, but they can vote from home. They can work from home. They can have their meetings. The committees can meet via, I don't know, video conferencing or what have you. It doesn't mean work should stop, because this is very important. They need to thrash out these issues and really broaden the kind of help that they're trying to give, because right now it doesn't cut it. The rebates, for me, sounds utterly ridiculous. Imagine trying, we all know the bureaucracy that we go through here, trying to apply for that rebate. How long is it going to even take you to get it? I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
In any case, it's not been confirmed that the senator from Nasarawa who sneezed carelessly and caused panic on the floor of the Senate, it's not confirmed that he has coronavirus.
No, he might have had a cold.
He may just have been an innocent.
Who on earth does that?
Well,
please?
I know that
horrific, completely horrific.
Habits die very hard, and that's why there should be more sensitization.
Yes, indeed.
More information. But I think, again, there should be greater coordination. On a daily basis, you will have the Ministry of Finance coming up with package. You have House of Reps. There should be greater coordination,
yes.
Synergy.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.